Don't blame Kirby Smart for the repeatedly poor decision from Georgia players. Blame him for the way he reacts. That was Matt Hayes, who's covered football for some time. This time he's at Saturday on South. Um, he said, blame Kirby as the coach of the most high profile team in college football for not taking a serious stand and significant public stand against his roster and demanding better for twice in the last week, staring in the face of opportunity and punting for failing his team, the university, and himself, all in the name of winning. And then he compares him to Urban Meyer. Let's talk about this. Look, I think that we've talked about this quite a bit. The driving at Georgia is not okay. The domestic, I don't know what you'd call what Rah did. He should not be on the team at Georgia, and by the time you're watching this, he probably is not. What I want to talk about now, though, Ryan, is it gotten to the point where Georgia is too far gone in terms of the public? If you are not a Georgia supporter or sympathetic to the Dogs, are you thinking that Georgia is just a rogue operation?
The thing is, there's definitely truth into the original statement that you were reading at the beginning, where there's only so much that they can control. These are individuals' decision making. Um, it's not all on Kirby. I do think that it's fair to point at him and hold him accountable to an extent. I I, I think that obviously he is. This is someone that parents are trusting that he's going to be one of the main people in mentoring their child, right? When they sign off on a kid going to Georgia, and so there is some responsibility that Kirby has in making sure that these kids are behaving, acting like civilized young men. He, he can't control if at 1 a.m. or something, a couple of the guys decide to race on the road. I do think that he could be more eloquent and more open in talking to the media and talking to the public about how they're handling it. I don't think that he's done a great job of explaining things or at least giving a standpoint on it. It's been very much just the way he talks about everything else, right? The coach speak, the not giving up anything. It's kind of the same way he's talked about this. But you can also look at the punishments, and I don't know. They're probably getting ran to death in practice and little things like that that we just don't see or hear about. But as far as like the public punishment and the actual like, hey, you know, I'm going to take this away from you. I don't know that they're being held accountable in the way that they should. If you're trying to establish a culture and also just help young people grow.
Yeah, my question is, and I've talked about this a lot. If you cannot be uh, trusted off the field, how can you be trusted on the field? And the vast majority of people that watch these videos or that that watch Georgia play, they don't, they're not seeing the off the field stuff at all. No matter if we're talking about, I have not seen Carson in his Lamborghini. You said you did the other day. You said it was a very nice car, but
Sure.
it made me think about when you said that. I was talking to Carson, who is a very polished person these days, and this was in Dallas, and it was not a lot of people around when we were talking. And he said something. I think one of the reporters said, you like fast cars, and he said, no, I like cars. He said my car just happens to be fast, and then this was the important part, I think. And then Carson said, and I don't drive like an idiot. And I think that, like, to me, that was like a moment of, because this is Carson Beck here. He is not a loud person. Um, he is quiet, for the most part, reserved, I guess is a better way to put it. And you could tell that he was aggravated by the way that some guys are acting. But we heard this a year ago, man. I was telling you when we were in Dallas, Cedric Van Pran was talking at the time when we were in Nashville about how they've got to get it under control. I don't want to hear about NIL money. I don't want to hear about the cars. Anybody can drive a car fast, or anybody can race. It's that these guys are actually doing it and getting caught. And this is coming after the death of a teammate and a person in the program a year before that. Is it all Kirby's fault? No. Is it some Kirby's fault? Yeah, some Kirby's fault. Is it does he report to Matt Hayes or me and you? No. But um but I do think that Georgia's got to do something in terms of public relations. This has gotten way away from them. And this has been coming on, I guess, 19 months or whatever it is, Ryan, of discussion of stuff that has nothing to do with football. And the direct now, what's becoming a direct comparison to Urban Meyer at Florida, um, that is not a flattering comparison, but I don't think it's one that you can necessarily say, well, that makes no sense at all. I mean, Florida was it was not good, and Georgia has had a really bad off the field for the last two off seasons. It's just been bad.
Yeah, part of the problem with this is that there is more than one way you can look at it.
Of
Like you can
course.
that is the problem with a lot of things, but with this touchy subject, you can look at it from the point where, well, it has nothing to do with football, right? This is not like this is something that's not happening at the facility or whatever. This is something they're doing outside of it. So that's when you take away the blame from Kirby and the program. But because it is college football, it's not the pros. It's not, they're not complete adults out there on their own quite yet. I just think that they can do a better job. PR, right? They could do a better job with that
They
aspect
can do a
of.
better job
Yeah,
not just public relations. I mean, I've
yeah,
mentioned that a lot, but there is a responsibility for it starts, with the player, and it goes up to Jerry Moorhead, the president of the University of Georgia. Uh, this is a horrible look for his institution. I mean, people are not writing stories about how the Spanish major is racing in the streets because no one knows who the Spanish major is. And, that person, it's not, it's about football. And when you have, and like no judgment here, but when you have turned over as many rocks to make Georgia as a behemoth in the sport, everyone that's at the institution has some responsibility as far as what's going on. And I mean, I would say it does start with Kirby. It's what can he do better to make it to where guys at Georgia don't do dumb stuff? What can he do better to make sure that these guys realize not only can they kill other people, but they can kill themselves and when they're driving just recklessly? What can be done? He has admitted, Kirby, that has been challenging for them. I mean, like that's been not easy for the football program to figure out. Having been on a team that had guys do dumb stuff, um, you know, it's hard. It's unfair to paint with a broad brush, but the brush is getting pretty broad to begin with because this continues to happen over and over again. I would not want to be associated with some of the dumb stuff that happened with my teammates. Um, but that's the world that we're living in now, and we were not in the spotlight at all. These guys all are. So I don't know what the answer is, but in terms of what Kirby's supposed to do, but we've not arrived at the answer. I know that.
yeah, and I'm sure they've done some things, and they've said that they've done some things. You say what does Kirby actually need to do? What does the program actually need to do? I don't think there's necessarily a clear answer. I think harsher punishments, maybe harsher public punishments, is something that's people don't want to their name out there in a bad light. But the biggest thing is the harshest punishment happened a year and a half ago
Yeah.
when people died. And that's what's just so surprising and shocking that it continues that it's continued. But there is only so much that they can do, and this is not like I feel that it's unfair for. I mean, what he doesn't know who's doing this on a night. He doesn't have a tracker on everybody's car and all of that. Like
Well,
there's
the
only so
only
much
let
that the
me push
program can.
back like this though. If you can create habits to where you don't jump off side, and you physically and mentally don't do that during games, you develop that during practice. The same sort of rigor apparently is going to have to be applied to off the field stuff, not just with driving, but with the Ra Ra Thomas thing.
That's different.
That's different. I think that that is unacceptable. Period, and that that's been dealt with or is going to be dealt with. The driving though is an every you drive every day. And students at Georgia, it's just what it is. I mean, no one takes. I mean, people. A lot of people take the bus, but the football guys mainly drive or take scooters or whatever. So it's an everyday thing, and there's got to be better habits that are formed. Um, and that's become part of the job of being a head football coach. And well, it was a long time ago. I mean, Mark Richt had to deal with. I am old enough to remember that Mark Richt has lost control of more things than. I mean, that's still a joke. Mark Richt has lost control of the Redcoat Band, or this, that, and the other. And as it just turns, part of it, Ryan, is you're dealing with 20-year-old men, boys, whatever you want to call it. But those boys or men can really hurt people doing dumb stuff. We all can, and we all need to take account for that. But what should Kirby do? I mean, Matt Hayes again. One last thing. He said, blame him for the way that he reacts. Fair, unfair? What say you?
I think that's a fair. I think that's a fair criticism. I just don't think that he's done a great job of talking about what they're actually doing. It's just, yeah, we keep things in house. We're doing this, we're doing that, but he doesn't actually say, hey, we have a class that we're doing. We had this particular speaker come in, and these are the things that we talked about. Kirby does have that responsibility to do those things, and it really is on Kirby what he shares and what he doesn't. But sharing that would take some of the criticism off the program. I think part of it is he just doesn't care, right? I mean, and that's just kind
He
of
doesn't
Kirby.
care to explain it. I don't
He
think.
doesn't care to explain it. He also doesn't care that maybe he probably cares more about what people think than he lets on. But what he's let on is that he doesn't care about any sort of outside noise, and for the most part, the criticisms that come with that.
Well, these guys
And
drive
that's
where we
part of
drive.
why the response has
These
been
guys
so
drive
dry.
where we drive, and they drive where everybody.
Yeah, I could get hurt. I mean,
Right.
I drive. I'm out late at night sometimes too. You know what I mean? Like, so it could be me. It could be your family. It could be. It's sad. It's sad when it's the older players too. When it's Smile London, who's been around and was around for what happened, and I'm sure is close with some of those people, and you see a Smile London getting in trouble with a freshman. You know what I mean? Then
Yeah,
that's a
that's
bad
not
example.
good.
The accountability is also on the older players in the room, like the Carson Becks, and how good it is to have a Cedric Van Pran in your locker room, right? Part of the accountability is on the other players, right? I mean, like you said with your teammates, sometimes my friend do dumb things that I don't. I'm like, dude, like let's not, or let's, And I've had friends that have done really bad things where I don't want to be associated with them
Right.
anymore. So I think that part of it is accountability on some of the leaders too.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for watching.